So some concepts that we looked into yesterday was for loop. First, we saw for loop, how to write a for loop, a simple for loop. Then we talked about the three clauses, right? Three statements which we can use along with loops. That was pass, break, and continue. So pass you can use with functions as well as with the conditional structure, that is if else structure. Break and continue you use only with loops. You don't use it with the other code blocks. So pass is used, as we saw yesterday, pass is used when you want to pass the code for the moment. You don't have anything, have not thought of what logic you will write, and so you're going to pass that part of the code, pass the code structure. And then we had a break. So if you are running a loop, if you have written a loop to run for a particular number of times for particular iterations, and if you want to break the loop in between, like if you have written a for loop for say 10 iterations, you want the for loop to run for 10 times, you want it to iterate for 10 times. So now in between, only after 5 rounds, now you want to break the loop and come out, then in that case you can use the break statement in between the loop. So break is usually used when like you have a condition to be satisfied. Like if you're taking, suppose if you're using for loop and you want to take some 10 inputs from the user, so in that case you will write a for loop which will run for 10 instances, right, which will run for 10 iterations, and it will take input from the user. But you want to break the loop as soon as the user gives some invalid input. Like if you are asking numbers from user, and if the user is giving a negative number or giving some random character instead of a number, so in that case you will just break the loop. So if you have such a condition to break the loop in between, then you can use the break statement to break the loop. And then we have continue statement. So that we saw yesterday, what was continue. So whenever you are running a loop, and if at certain condition, again here also you will mostly check a condition, and if the condition is true, then you will continue the loop. So continuing means wherever you're using that continue statement, the control will come from that point to the start of the loop again, which means whatever is present after the continue statement will get skipped for that iteration. So yeah, these three things we saw, and then we saw what is the difference between while and for loop. Where do we use while loop, and where do we use for loop? So we saw that we use for loops whenever we know how many times we want to run the loop. Like we have an exact count of how many times the loop has to be run. In that case, we use a for loop, because in that case we can use the range function directly, right? And in that range function we can specify how many times we want the loop to run. But in case of while, we usually use a while loop when we don't know how many times we want to run the loop. We have a condition, like the loop has to be run as long as the condition is satisfied, but we just know the condition. We don't know how many times the loop will run before the condition becomes false. So yesterday we saw one example of this, wherein like we were taking input from the user, the name from the user, and we were welcoming the user. So whenever the user gave a stop as the name, as the input, at that point I cut the loop. I came outside of the loop. So my condition at that point was, as long as the user is giving me some valid input which is not equal to stop, like whatever input the user is giving, if whenever that is not equal to stop, or as long as that is not equal to stop, you keep on running the loop. So in this case, I did not know how many times I had to run the loop. I just had a condition, like as long as I'm getting a valid input, you keep on running the loop. So that's where we use while loops instead of for loops. And I think we saw nested for loops and nested while loops. Yeah, so today what we will do is, I think I'll just quickly take one more example of for loop, and then we'll see. So yesterday we saw break statement for a single for loop, right? So let's see how do we work with break statement in case of nested for loops. So I'll present my screen. Just a minute. Okay, so let's take. Yesterday we saw the multiplication case, right? We took the case of multiplication where we were getting the multiplicative tables of some numbers from 1 to 10 till the fifth of each table. So, do you want to take the same example? If you did not understand it, then probably we can take the same example. Should we take the same example? Do you guys want to go through the same example again? I think that was the end of the session, so I'm not sure if like people understood it very well.
Another example.
Sorry about that. I just got kicked out of the meeting. Yeah, okay. So probably we'll take the same example and see once. So okay. So this is exactly what we did yesterday. Yeah.
Another example.
Okay, you want another example? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that was only the maximum like complexity example. I think everything else is if that is what you've understood, then I think everything else would be fine only. Um, Okay, so fine. I'll just take one this example. So basically, in any programming languages, while you learn loops, right? So there is one very common question. Like if you're taking some very test based courses for any language, right? For C plus plus, Java, Python, any of the language. So there is one example, one question that is very bound to come. So I thought this was an interesting example for using for loop. So yeah, so that's why I thought we can take this example for using. This is also a nested for loop. For all these things, you'll require nested for loops only. So the question is, you'll be given a pattern like this, and you have to write the code to print the pattern. Okay, so let's see. Like I thought we can take the three patterns and then maybe a little more complicated pattern I'll give you as a homework. So yeah, it's a good programming exercise. Like this was usually given to us while when we were learning C++ plus plus in the college. So this is what used to come in the paper. So yeah, I thought it was a good example, relatable example. So yeah, so what I want to do right now is using for loops, I have to print this pattern. Okay, so yeah, so I have to print this pattern. So okay, so first let me just go back and without using for loop, I'll just print this pattern. See, so this is very simple, right? Without using for loop, you just print a star on one line, print double star on second line, then you print three stars on third line, four stars on fourth line, and five stars on fifth line. Okay, so this is how what you have printed, which is this is the simplest way to do it. But if I want to do it using a for loop, okay, so my question is, how do I do using a for loop? For loop for printing patterns. Okay, so now as you know why it's so first thing, why are we using a for loop here? Can anyone guess like why not a while loop? Why are we using a for loop while printing this pattern? Any guesses? Like it's okay if it's wrong.
Ma'am, we know how many times the loop has to be run.
Right, exactly. That's great. Yeah. So we know that we know how much we have to print, right? That is not a variable. We know how many times we have to print something, right? So here, okay, fine. So first thing is, we know we have to print five lines, right? So now that we know we have to print 5 lines, which means here in this case I'm using this print method, print function 5 times. That means I have to run a loop for 5 times, right? So I'll just say for I in range 5. Okay, so for I in range 5, I have to print something, right? So now if I just print star, if I just print star, what it will do is it will just print this single star on each of the lines, right? But I want to print variable number of stars. Like on the first line, I want to print 1 star. For the second line, I want to print 2 stars, right? So this, okay, so now the number of stars that I have to print in this case will depend on which variable here? The number of stars that I have to print in each iteration will depend on which variable here?
X.
There is no x variable here. Here in
I.
this case, yeah,
I.
it will depend on I. Okay, why will it depend on I? Because as we saw here, the first line has 1 star, right? So the first line has 1 star, 1 star. Second line has 2 stars. Third line has 3 stars, which means this is the first iteration. So first line means first iteration, right? First iteration of the loop. So first iteration of the loop has 1 star. Second iteration of the loop has 2 stars. Third iteration has 3 stars, which means my number of stars depend on which iteration it is, what number of time the loop is running, what is the count of the loop, right? So that is what my I number of stars will depend on. Okay, now in this case I is how we are checking loop, which iteration it is, what is the number of times that the loop has run. So that is checked using I, right? If it's the first loop, first time the loop is running, first iteration, then you have I is equal to 0. If it is the second iteration, then I will become 1, and similarly it will go on, right? So now I know that when I is equal to 0, my first iteration would be I is equal to 0, right? I know whenever first iteration I is equal to 0, I want to print 1 star. Okay, second, when I is equal to 1, I want to print 2 stars. 2 stars, right? So now in this case, like what should I know? Like in I is equal to 0, I have to print 1 star. I is equal to 1, I have to print 2 stars, which means if I is equal to n, I is equal to n, how many stars do I have to print?
N plus 1, ma'am.
Yeah, right, n plus 1 star, right? N plus 1 star. So now the number of stars I have to print is n plus 1, right? That would be whatever I is plus 1, right? Whatever I is, whatever is the value of I plus 1. That is the number of stars I have to print, right? So now I will create another loop inside of this. Actually, you can just you can eliminate this for loop, internal for loop also. You can just directly use into I plus 1. Okay, sorry, I think I just left some comment over there. Yeah, so this gets the pattern printed. So here what I did is I just multiplied this I into I plus 1. I just multiplied this star with I plus 1 because at level I have to print I plus 1 stars, right? So at iteration I will print I plus 1 stars. Is this clear, everyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so okay, fine. So at least is this clear that whenever we have I, whatever is the iteration of whatever is the number of iteration, I have to print I plus 1 stars.
Yes, ma'am.
This is clear, right? I plus 1 stars I'll have to print. So now if I say print star,
Ma'am, can you repeat once again? I'm not getting.
okay, okay, I'll repeat it once more. Okay, so let's just go to the start and here let's see. See here I have 5 lines, right? I have 5 print lines. Okay, so now this 5 print lines I am going to use a loop for, because this is the same print function that I'm using for 5 times, right? So I'm going to use a loop instead of writing this print function 5 times. Okay, and I'm going to use a for loop because I know that I have to print it only for 5 times. So I have a range in this case that I have to run the loop for 5 times only. So that's why I'm using a for loop. Now here if I just say print star, so this is just going to print 1 star on each line, right? This is just going to print 1 star on each line. But I need I don't need 1 star on each line. I need a variable number of stars on each line, which means if my if it's the first line, I want the number of stars to be 1. If it's the second line, I want the number of stars to be 2. If it's the third line, I want the number of stars to be 3, right? So here in this case, the first line will be printed by the first iteration of the for loop, right? If I'm running it for 5 times, then my first iteration of the loop will print this. I'm expecting that my first iteration of the loop will print the first line. Second iteration of the loop will print the second line. Third iteration will print third. Fourth will print fourth, and fifth will print fifth line. Right? Is this clear? Clear till here?
Yes.
Okay. So now my question was, so now that we said that I want a variable number of stars in each iteration of the loop. Okay, what will that number of stars depend on? Which variable will that number of stars depend on? It will depend on whichever iteration is going on of the loop, right? Clear till here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now then you have to find out like what is the relation between the number, the count of the iteration, like what iteration it's going on, and how many stars I want on that iteration. That is the relation you have to find out. So how will you find out? You just say here, when in the first iteration of the loop I would be 0. Whenever I is 0, I want 1 star. Whenever I is 2, whenever I is 2 whenever I is 0, I want 1 star. Whenever I is 1, I want 2 stars. When I is 2, I want 3 stars. I want 3 stars. When I is 3, I want 4 star. And when I is 4, I want 5 stars. Which means how many number of if I just have I in this case, how will I represent the number of stars over here? This would be I plus 1, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Right. So now we have understood, right? For each iteration, I have to print I plus 1 stars. Clear? For each iteration, I have to print I plus 1 stars. So that we have to find out how will we print I plus 1 stars for each iteration. Okay. So now that we again know, I can again use a for loop in this case to print that many number of stars as I require here. Okay, because I know that I have to print I plus 1 stars, which is a definitive thing, right? I know that I have to print I plus 1 stars for each iteration. So which means whenever I is 0, number of stars would be 1 star would be printed. Whenever I is 1, 2 stars would be printed. So that I know. So what I'll do is I'll write another loop for j in range. What would be the range in this case?
I plus 1.
Right. I plus 1 would be the range. So here, let's say print star. And now I don't, so whenever we use print function, right, whenever we are using a print function, what it will do is whatever you are writing in this print, that it will say name here, whatever you are writing here, and then again go and write print some name here again. So both these lines will be printed on two different lines, right? But I want these stars to be printed like next to each other, like how it is over here. I want it to be printed next to each other, not one below the other, right? Whenever you use print, maybe I'll just go to it. Okay. So now if I'm saying print name here, and then I again come and say print name here again. So both of these things will be printed in two separate lines, right? So if I want to print them one next to the other, which means if I want my output to be,
Side by side.
yeah, side by side, name here again. Again, if this is what I want my output to be, so I'll just say comma end is equal to, so now here it is. If you want a space between both of them, you just have to give whatever character you want between the first and the second, whatever is the preceding print statement. So here I just say, if I say end is equal to and this space character, so what it will do is it will print whatever is present in this print statement, and it will place a space over, because you have specified a space in this end parameter, and then whatever is the preceding print statement, whatever is the next print statement, it will print that. So in this case it will say name here again. So now if I just say this, like this is the right code, okay, this is what I want. But if I say, if I run this, it will give me wrong output, because it will print all the stars in different lines. Like you want a pattern like this, right? You want a pattern like this. You don't want each of the stars to be printed on separate line. Yeah. So you don't want each of the star to be printed in separate line. This will give you the right number of stars. You will get exactly the number of stars that you require, because in the first iteration only one star will be printed. In the second iteration, two stars will be printed. But those stars will not be printed as per the pattern. It won't be printed like this, like how it is over here. It will be printed one below the other. So if I run this, all the stars are coming in one single line. So I don't want that, right? So what do I want? Like after, I'm just going to say after this, I'll say end is equal to,
Uh,
yeah, any question?
no, ma'am.
Okay. So yeah, I'll do this. I'll say end is equal to and empty, because I don't want any space between the stars. If I would have wanted space, I would have given a space over here. But I don't want any space between the stars. So this is done. Okay. But in this case, it will just keep on using this end state, like this end is equal to open close quote, and all the stars will be printed in a single vertical line. So if I run this, all of the stars are printed in a single vertical line. Okay, because it does not know where to end that one line and when to go to the next line. I have to tell it, okay, this much is done, now you go to a next line. So when do we go to a next line? Whenever my inner loop gets over, like, because my inner loop is basically printing whatever is present on one line. My outer loop is counting which line is going on. It is printing 5 different lines, one after the other, and the inner loop is printing how many stars are required on a certain line, or how many stars are required on a particular line, right? So after the number of stars required on a particular line is printed, I want to go to a next line, right? So I'll just come here outside of the loop now. See, I'm outside of the loop. Like you can see by the indentation, right now I'm outside of the loop, the inner for loop. And then I'll just say print. Either you can say backslash n, which means the this character, enter character. Enter is also called backslash n, or you can directly put it as print. That is also fine. So when I run this, I get the proper pattern now. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone wants me to explain this again? It's clear, right, for everyone? No need of explaining it again.
No, ma'am.
Okay. If anyone wants me to explain it again, just tell me. Okay. So this is done. This is clear. So now let's go and see another pattern. So yeah, so basically, so this is how it works in other languages. Like you can use double for loop, but in Python it is actually even simple. Like just as I showed before, right? So I can directly say range 5, fine. This will give me 5 lines of whatever I'm putting inside the code block. And now I know that for each line I have to print I plus 1 stars for each of the line, right? So we have seen initially that if we have a string, say apple. Okay, if I have a string and I have to copy this string 3 times, I can just say into 3. And this apple will be printed 3 times. Basically, apple will be multiplied 3 times and saved into this mul variable. So when I print mul, it gives me apple, 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 right? So now similarly, if I have a star character, right? And if I want to print this star character 5 times, then I can directly multiply it with 5. And then it will just give me star, 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 right? So here, instead of this for loop, inner for loop, like whichever programming language does not have this multiplicative capabilities, you can use this inner for loop for it. But actually in Python, you don't require that. You can just say print star into what would be the multiplication, like what should I multiply it with?
Star.
3.
I
Mm,
plus
yeah, I plus 1, because this if I put it 3, then at all the lines it will give me 3 stars only, right? I want that number of stars to be variable. So in this case, as we have calculated before, that on each of the line, in each of the ith iteration, I want I plus 1 stars. So that's why I can directly multiply it with I plus 1. So yeah, I have the same pattern again. So yeah, but anyway, just to make our understanding clear, we'll just use a inner for loop. Okay. So next let's go to the second this pattern. So second pattern is exactly the opposite of the first pattern. So here in this case, I'll just print it normally. 5. Then you have print 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and print 1. Okay, so this is what I want to print using two nested for loops. So the first statement will remain the same. Here also we are printing 5 lines. Here also we had printed 5 lines. Here also we had printed 5 lines. So here first for loop will have the same condition for I in range 5. What will change here is how many stars we are printing on each line, right? So how many stars? In this case, if it is the first iteration, I want 5 stars. If it is the second iteration, I want 4 stars. So here also, what will the number of stars depend on? Which variable will the number of stars depend on? Anyone? Which variable that number of stars will depend on? Here also we want the number of stars according to the iteration, right? Like in the first iteration I want 5 stars, in the second iteration I want 4 stars, third iteration I want 3 stars. So here also my number of stars will depend on which iteration is going on. So which variable will be
In
responsible?
reverse order.
Sorry, repeat again.
In reverse order.
Yeah, in reverse order, but which variable will it depend on?
I plus
Can we take minus
It will depend on I, that is right. And what were you saying? Can we take minus?
minus again? Oh, sorry. -1.
Minus 1 in like I don't know. I don't think so. Like minus 1, if you're multiplying something, if you're using a for loop, that has to be run for positive number of times, right? You can't run it for -1 times. That will give you an error. So, okay, so yeah, so let's see. So at least we know right now that I have to find a relation between the number of stars and I. Okay, I have to find a relation between the number of stars present on each line and this variable I. Okay, okay. So now if my if my I is equal to 0, I require 5 stars. If I is equal to 1, I require 4 stars. If I is equal to 2, I require 3 stars. If I is equal to 3, 2 stars. And if I is equal to 4, I require 1 star. Okay, which means I require 5 minus I stars, right, on each line. This here 5 minus 0 would be 5. In this case 5 minus 1 would be 4. In this case 5 minus 2 would be 3. In this case 5 minus 3 would be 2 and 5 minus 4 would be 1. Right? So on each line I require 5 minus I stars. Clear for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay, it's not clear. So at least is this clear that when I is 0, I require 5 stars. When I is 1, I require 4 stars. When I is 2,
Yes, ma'am.
this is clear, right? This part is clear, right? So now I have to find a relation between my number of stars and I. Okay, so you just see the pattern, like you can find out from the pattern itself, like whenever if I want 5, okay, when I is equal to 0, then I can say I minus 0, right? When I want 4, when I is equal to 1, I can say 5 minus 1. Then when I want 3, when I is equal to 2, I can say 5 minus 2 is equal to 3, right? So basically on every line, I want 5 minus I stars. If you put these variables, this 1, 2, 3, 4 in place of I and check here, then all of this fits. 5 minus 0 is 5, so you will get 5 stars. 5 minus 1 is 4, so you have 4 stars. 5 minus 2 is 3, so you have 3 stars. 5 minus 3 is 2, so you have 2 stars. And 5 minus 4 is 1. So this pattern fits properly, right? If you use 5 minus I stars on each line. If you print 5 minus I stars on each line. So yeah, so in this case my inner loop will run from ij in range 5 minus I, and again I'll do the same thing. I'll print star, and I don't want the stars to be printed on separate lines. I want them to be printed one next to other, side by side. So I'll say end is equal to this, and after one line is done, I want to go to a next line. So that's why I'll use print, either backslash n or just print. And if I print this, okay. Okay, backslash n will give you one more empty space. So you just use print. Yeah. So this is how it got printed. So yeah, this is clear for everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I think the third one is exactly more or less the same like the stars example only, but instead of stars, you have numbers. Yeah, so yeah, here it is. So yeah, here in this case also you have a pyramid. Okay, you have 5 lines. You have variable number of numbers on each line, but instead of star, I have a number on each line. So let's go and see this. Okay. So I'm again printing it for reference. Okay. So here also we have 5 lines, which is fixed again, that I have to use the print function for 5 times. So I'll say for I in range, I in range 5. So now this is exactly like the previous one, right? The previous stars example, the first stars example that we saw, that on the first line we have one number instead of one star. The second line we have two numbers instead of two star. Third line we have three numbers instead of three stars, and four and five. So basically in this case the I, right, the relation of I will remain the same as it was previously. In previous example, in this example we saw that for each of the I, we wanted stars that was I plus 1. So similarly in this case, for each iteration I will want numbers, that the number of numbers to be printed to be I plus 1. So in the first iteration, when I is 0, I have one number to be printed. In the second iteration, when I is equal to 1, I have two numbers to be printed, right? So in this way you can find out that on ith, suppose n I consider, like if I consider n, so that is when I is equal to n, I will want n plus 1 numbers to get printed, right? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, so now I know that the second loop, just like the previous example, will run till, where will it run till?
I plus 1.
I plus 1, right? So now I'll figure out what I have to write over here. What is it that I have to print? Initially though I was printing only star, right? But here I need numbers. So my number starts from 1, right? So my number will start from 1, then it will go to 2, then it will go to 3, it will go to 4 and 5. So whenever I is 0, my number will end at 1, right? Whenever I is 1, my number will end at 2. Whenever I is 3, my number will end at, whenever I is 2, my number will end at 3. So I is 2, my number will end at 3, which means my number will always end at I plus 1, right? So I have to start writing from 1 till I plus 1. 1, 2, 3 till I plus 1. Clear? Is this part clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have to start printing numbers from 1, 2, 3 till I plus 1, right? So what you can do in this case is, now see, when you are starting a loop here in this case, okay, when you have a j variable, so this j variable, so as we saw, right, internally this j variable will go on till from 0, 1, 2 till I, right? This is what the value that j will hold. In this case j will have value from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like it will depend on the iteration. If this is my so if I plus 1 is 2, if I plus 1 is 2 in this case, so then my loop will become like for j in range 2, right? If I plus 1 is 2, whenever I is 1. So in this case, if I have something like this, now internally j will hold values of 0 and 1, right? Clear everyone? Internally, when this loop is running, j will have values of 0 and 1. In the first iteration of this loop, j will have value as 0. In the second iteration, the j will have value as 1, right? Clear everyone? This much?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. So similarly, whenever I have I plus 1, whenever my range is I plus 1, j will hold the values from 0 to I. Right? In the first iteration, j will hold a value of 0. Second iteration, j will hold a value of 1. Similarly, in the I plus 1th iteration, j will hold a value of I. Right? But okay, so now you can see that whenever in the first iteration of j, I want 1 to be printed. In the second iteration of j, I want 2 to be printed. In the third iteration of j, I want 3 to be printed. And similarly, in the last iteration, I want I plus 1 to be printed. So I'll simply print j plus 1. Whatever is the current value of j plus 1, I have to print. So in the first iteration of this loop, j would be 0 and 1 would be printed for me. In the second iteration of this loop, j would be 1 and 2 will be printed for me. And again, since I don't want to print it on separate lines, but I want to print all the numbers on a single line, side by side. So I'm using this end is equal to, and then again a line, no, sorry, next line when you're done with the inner loop. So if I run this, sorry, yeah. So now you have the proper pyramid, whatever you require. Okay, clear everyone? Let me tell me if you require one more explanation of it. I can explain it once more if you did not understand it. Okay, so I think that ends our loops. So yeah, I was going to show you one more thing, right? I was going to yesterday we briefly saw the break statement. We saw how break is used, but we saw a break only when one loop is involved. So yeah, so what I'll do is I will again write a for loop, and this is basically like a revision for break statement. So now if I have a for loop say till 10, range 10, and if I my number is, if I is equal to 3, then I want to break the loop. Okay, if the number is 3, I want to break the loop, or else I can just print whatever is the, like in all the other iterations I can just print whatever is the value of I. Okay, so in this case what should be the output? Can anyone tell me what will be the output of this code?
1, 2, 3.
1 2 and no, it won't be. Okay, so first of all I will start from 1 or I will start from 0.
From 0.
Yeah, it will start from 0. So it will print 0, it will print 1, it will print 2. And when I is equal to 3, right? When I will be equal to 3, this if statement will be true and it will break the loop. So it won't print 3 because it won't reach line number 5 only. Whenever I is equal to 3, after executing, after checking this condition in if statement, you don't require the parenthesis in if, by the way, can directly just write this I is equal to 3. Yeah, when I is equal to 3, you can this loop will get broken and line number 5 will not be reached for I is equal to 3. So you will only get 0 1 and 2 as the output. So yeah, you only get 0 1 and 2 as the output. Okay, so here we saw how do we break one for loop, right? So this now in case I have a nested for loop. So if I have say 10, and if I have j, for j in range, maybe I'll just make it as 3, and this I'll make it as 5, in range 5, and I'll just print j in this case. Okay, I'll print j. Before that, if j is equal to 3, then break. Okay. And just for readability, I'm like giving a space after every inner for loop gets executed. So yeah, what do you think will be the output in this case? So okay, if this break statement wasn't there, let's just start small. If this break statement was not there, if this break statement was not there, then what would have been the output of this? Anyone? It's just printing j. So basically the inner for loop will run for 3 times, right? This is all you are clear about. I'm hoping you're clear about the fact that the inner for loop, where 4 is equal 4 in range 5, this will run for
3
3
times.
times.
3 times 3 in a
uh,
single line.
yeah, let's check that. Yeah, let's go one at a time and check that. So now this inner loop will run for 3 times, right? Because my outer loop is has a range of 3, and inner for loop comes as a code structure of the outer for loop. So this will run 3 times, and my inner for loop just prints j 5 times. Okay, it will run for 5 times and it will print whatever is the current index of j. So it will print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 will get printed 3 times, because so one time, like one iteration, basically one time, if this for loop runs, right, if this inner for loop runs for one time, it will print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I am making it print for 3 times using the outer for loop. So this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 will get printed 3 times. 4. So let's take that. Just a second. I think there is some other code at the top. Yeah, let me just remove this. Okay. So yeah, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is getting printed 3 times. Food. So now what I'm saying is, I want to break the inner loop if j is equal to 3. So in this case, what would you expect the answer to be? I'm breaking the inner loop whenever j is equal to 3. So when I'm breaking the inner loop, when I'm using this break statement inside the inner for loop, when it encounters this break statement, only the inner for loop will get broken. The outer for loop will not get broken. Okay. So this is what I wanted to explain.
0, 1, 2, 3 times.
Yeah. So this break statement will only be applicable for the inner for loop. It will not be applicable for the outer for loop. So yeah, so in this case it will, for the inner for loop. Now let's just consider what it will print once. Okay, let that only, the same thing that it is going to print once, that only it is going to print thrice, right, because of the outer loop. So we'll see what it prints for the first time. So in this case, since we have a break at j is equal to 3, it will print 0, 1, 2 in one iteration. And when it encounters, when j becomes 3, at that point, it will break the inner loop. Okay, so my inner loop will print 0, 1, 2 in one complete run of the for loop, one complete execution of the for loop. Okay, is this clear? It will print 0, 1, 2 in one complete execution of the for loop. That is because at j is equal to 3, I'm breaking the for loop. So it is just going to print 0, 1, 2. Now, since my break statement is only going to break the inner loop and it will not affect the outer loop at all. Okay, my break statement is not going to affect the outer loop at all. It is just going to break the inner loop. So in this case, when this loop gets broken, when j is equal to 3, and yeah, so after the loop gets broken, the control will again come at the outer loop, and again the next time it will keep on running. So basically, because this for loop, outer for loop, is for 3 iterations, my inner, whatever I have written inside of this, will run for 3 iterations without regards to whether there is a break or not inside the inner for loop. When I use a break statement, that break statement is only valid for the for loop in which it is written. It will not affect any other for loop. So in this case, this 0, 1, 2 will be printed thrice, because my inner for loop is run for 3 times. So when I run this, it will give me 0, 1, 2. Clear? Clear, or want me to explain it again?
No, ma'am, it's clear.
Okay, clear for everyone else? If you require any explanation, tell me. Okay, yeah, cool. So yeah, I guess that is it with for loops. Yeah, so we saw nested for loop, then we saw nested while loop, and then we saw printing of patterns. And I think we have also seen using if else inside the loops, right? It is exactly like, I mean, basically, you can just nest anything. You can put one thing inside the other. You can put the if and else inside for loops, and for loops inside if else statements also. So that would be totally fine. You can try it out yourself if you want. Okay, so let's just get done with this and let's move on to the next concept. Any questions regarding conditional statements or regarding for and while loops, you can ask during the session right now. Okay. So yeah, so I think so today we won't start with functions because I just thought it one. I mean, we let's just start it in the next week itself. So whatever remaining concepts are right that we haven't looked into, so probably a little bit of that we can look into. So right now we'll see a data structure called dictionary. So last time, right now, till now, we have seen how many data structures. We have seen integers. We have seen, sorry, not data structures, data types. So till now, how many data types we have seen? We have seen integers. We have seen floats. Then we have seen sequential data types, that is strings, tuples, lists, and we have seen Boolean data type, right? So this is a new data type. Yeah, Boolean. So this is a new data type which is called dictionary. So basically, I'll just tell you. So dictionary is used whenever we want to store a key and value pair. Okay, like if I want to, okay, let's just go and check small code itself. Yeah, okay. So now if I want to, so first of all, dictionary, while creating dictionary, so while creating a list, we were using the square brackets, right? We use the square brackets. While creating tuples, we used uh, this curved brackets or parenthesis. And while creating a dictionary, you will use this curly braces. Okay, this is how you create a dictionary using a curly braces. So now, like dictionary is not a sequential data type. It's not a part of the sequential data type because it is not. Its purpose is not to keep things together. Like in list, how you like the purpose of lists and tuples is to keep elements together, right? Instead of if I have like multiple elements which have the same idea, like if I have the ice cream flavors example that we saw, like for a restaurant, if we are writing a code, then in that case I'll use a list in order to store all the flavors that are present at the restaurant, right? So in that case, I just had some flavors that I had to put together into one variable. So in that case, I used a list. So it was a sequence. It was of sequential data type because there was a certain sequence in the elements of the list, and you could index any of the element in the list using the sorry, you could access any of the elements in the list using the index of that element. But in dictionary is not a part of the sequential data type because it does not hold the items sequentially. So if you put in three or four elements inside the dictionary, you cannot guarantee that the internal way in which it is stored would be the sequence in which you have provided values to the dictionary. That means if I put three elements inside the dictionary, okay, you cannot access the elements based on index because internally they might be stored in a different way. So index is not the way in which you access elements of the dictionary. Okay, one way in which you can differentiate between a list and a dictionary would be like in a, you can take any example. So let's take that ice cream example only. Now if we have an ice cream menu where we have certain flavors and we just have the name of the flavors, we just want to store the names of the flavors, in that case I'll use a list, right? But if I want to store a key value pair, that is if I want to store ice cream and the cost that the ice cream has, okay, if I want to store a key value pair, like in this case I like basically you want a key value pair, key and value. You have a key and you have a value. So why is this called a key? Because whenever we want any value, then I will just use the key and I'll get the value. Okay, so I'll provide a key to the dictionary and it will give me the value of that key. So in this case, you can think of the key as the ice cream name. Ice cream name. If I have an ice cream name and what is the cost associated with that ice cream. Okay, so here in this case, my key would be ice cream name and value would be the cost of the ice cream. So whenever I get an input from the user saying I want some apple ice cream, so I can directly ask the dictionary what is the cost of apple ice cream, and dictionary will provide me the cost of apple ice cream. So that is the function of a dictionary. You put in the key value pairs inside the dictionary. You put in key value pairs inside the dictionary such that whenever you want to access any value, you can just provide the key for that value and you will get the value of that particular thing. So in this case, you can, in this example, I will store in dictionary all the ice creams that are available on the menu and the cost associated with those ice creams. So whenever any customer comes in and tells me I want mango ice cream, so I can directly ask my dictionary what is the cost of mango ice cream. In that case, my key would be mango ice cream. Okay, and dictionary will provide me with a value of what is the cost of that mango ice cream, and that I can use it like to take money from the customer in this case. Okay, so that is the purpose of using a dictionary whenever you want to store key value pairs. Okay, so let's go and create a dictionary. So yeah, so here in this case I am going to create a dictionary that will hold so you can say that will hold the details of a car. Details of a car. Okay, if I have a car, or let's just take that ice cream example only, that'll be easier to understand. Screen menu. Okay, so now I will initialize my dictionary using the curly braces. Okay, so okay, so now with every value, with every ice cream name, I will have to provide it with a cost. So if I have apple, I will have to provide it with a some value associated with this apple key. So the first value that you use would be the key, and then you have to use a colon, and then you have to use whatever is the this associated, the value associated with that key. Similarly, if I then you have to use a comma just like we used in list, right? Between elements you will have a comma. So in dictionary, this whole thing, this whole key value is your one element. This whole key value pair is your one element. This, yeah, this is your key value pair, and this is one element of the dictionary. Yeah, so you can have multiple elements in the dictionary. So now I'll say mango again, and suppose mango has a cost of 50, and then strawberry. So till now in the list we were just storing the name of the ice creams, right? In this case I am storing the name of the ice cream along with how much the ice cream costs. So yeah, so now whenever I get a a request from the customer, that is whenever I get a flavor from the customer, if I want to give the customer the cost of that flavor, then I can directly use this dictionary to get the cost of that flavor. So say I'm taking a flavor from the user input. Okay, so now I'm taking the flavor from the user, and first I'll have to check if that flavor is available, or maybe yeah, that we'll see later. No? So what I'll do is if I want to get the value, the cost of that particular flavor, I'll just say ice cream menu, and I have to specify the key. Okay, in this case there is no meaning of index. There is no, you cannot use an index to specify to get any element from the dictionary. You will have to specify the key, and dictionary will provide you with whatever value is associated with that key. So in this case, whatever flavor is, I'll just say this flavor. So basically, if my flavor is ice cream, if my flavor is apple, then in that case, I have to specify like this, apple. We'll see this later.
So using this ice cream menu, and same thing, you have to use square brackets, but instead of using an index, you have to use the key. So yeah, so when you print this, you should get 40 as the value. So yeah, it gave me 40 as the value, right? So yeah, so now let's go back and let's do this earlier thing. So now whatever you get from the user, whatever ice cream you get from the user, you can get the cost of that ice cream and you can print the cost of that ice cream. Okay, so I'll say mango this time. So it provides me with 50 as the value, which is the value for the key mango. So yeah, this is what a dictionary is. This you can see the data type of this using print type ice cream menu.
Yeah, so see, it says as DICT, dict, which is the short form for dictionary. So you know that this is a dictionary. This variable is of data type dictionary. Okay, so let's just go to the PPT once and see some of the characteristics of dictionary. Then we can probably use some operations of dictionary. Okay, so yeah, so this collection is, it's a collection. So basically, even lists and tuples are also collections only because you have multiple values into one variable. So this is a collection that is unordered. Okay, so why is this unordered? Because it is unordered, it is not a part of the sequential data type. Unordered means that even though I'm providing it with this order, even though I'm providing apple first, mango second, and strawberry third, but internally it can be stored in a different order also. So you cannot use an index to get the value, to get the value of any particular key value pair. Okay, internally it might be stored in a different manner, it might not be stored in this particular manner. So yeah, that is based on the internal structure of Python. So you don't have control over what the order would be in the dictionary. So that's why it's called as unordered, and it's changeable. And yeah, so it's indexed, basically it is indexed using the keys only. You can use the keys to access the values of it. Okay, and it follows a key value pair. Length you can find using the len function again. And in this case, right, because the key is like a ID for it. For every element, the key would be like an ID, right? Key is like the ID. So in this case, while using a dictionary, you cannot have duplicate keys. Duplicate keys are not allowed in dictionary. So if I try to put one more apple in this case, okay, if I try to access that apple, then in that case it will fail because Python should get confused about which apple I'm talking about. Okay, it did. Okay, what if I just say 40? Okay. Ideally, it should not give the answer. It should at least fail or something because, like, multiple, if you have the IDs, in that case, like Python will get confused on which ID are you referring to if you have multiple values associated with the same ID. So I don't know. I'll have to see why is this working. Ideally, it should not. So yeah, I think I'll get back to you about that. I'll check and get back. So at least from your part, you should never provide duplicate keys into a dictionary because like like logically, if you think of it, right, like if you have two values, if you have two key value pairs which have the same key. Now in this case, when I said apple 40 and apple 20, it does not really make sense, right? Like you have only one value associated with one key, so in this case you have only one cost associated with the apple, right? So like you should have that unique key value pair, unique key and a value associated with it. Yeah, so keys are case sensitive. Keys are say case sensitive, as in this strawberry is would be different from capital S strawberry. This is called case sensitivity, right? So even though both of them are strawberry, but in the second one you have like a capital S. So even if one of the characters is one of the characters of the string is capitalized, so if the data type is case sensitive, then in that case it will consider both of them to be different. So in this case, this strawberry and this strawberry are different, even though both of them contain the same characters, but one of them has a capital S, right? So yeah, that's case sensitive and it will be treated as a different. So if I say strawberry and so this should, yeah, this is printing me according to whatever key I have specified. So yeah, this is okay. So yeah, so once you create a dictionary, you can update the values of the dictionary. So if I want to update the values of the dictionary, like once you create this dictionary, probably the rate of mango ice cream went up by 5 rupees or something. So in that case, you can update this dictionary by specifying the key and by assigning it whatever is your new value, whatever is the new value that you wish to assign to the variable or to the key associated. So here in this case, if I say ice cream menu, then it will provide me with 55 and not 50. Sorry, ice cream menu of mango. Yeah, so it gives me 55 instead of 50 because this 50 value got updated to 55 when I use this. Okay, yeah, this is it. Okay, now if you want to remove an element from the dictionary. Okay, before that, if I want to copy a dictionary, right? Like if I want to completely copy a dictionary, so if I have like one more dictionary, menu 2, and I want to copy the elements of this first dictionary into the second dictionary, then you can directly use ice cream menu dot copy. And now if I print the second dictionary, it should be exactly the same as the first dictionary. So yeah, here you can see, and this updated value is also reflected here. Mango is 55 instead of 50. So yeah. So and if you want to delete all the elements, like clear the dictionary basically. So you don't want to delete the dictionary, but you want to clear all the elements of that dictionary. Then in that case, you can use dot clear .clear. And now if I print this ice cream flavor dictionary, it will just be clear. It won't have anything. So your second line, if you can see, third line, sorry. So you just have an open and close curly brace. That is because the dictionary is clear. All the elements of the dictionary have been deleted. And if you want to delete a dictionary completely, so in that case, you can just say del and whatever is the dictionary name. So after this, if you try to print the dictionary, you will get a failure. You will get some error message. Yeah, so it's not defined. It says it's not defined because the dictionary has been deleted. Okay, now if you want to remove elements from a dictionary, see menu, let's just try this. Print. Okay, maybe I'll just specify and see if that works. Okay.
What is the meaning of pop?
Pop will pop that element. That is, it will remove that element. Whatever you specify here, right, inside this pop function, that will get removed from the dictionary. So yeah, so now this mango is removed and you only have the rest of the this key value pairs. So pop is basically removing from the dictionary. So that's called pop here in this case. So it will just pop that element from the dictionary, which is it will remove that element from the dictionary. Now, if you want to check if a certain key is present in the dictionary or not, so like maybe, sorry, yeah, it's the same dictionary. If I'm taking the input from the user, but before that, I want to check like if that flavor is available in the menu or not. So basically, in that case, I'll have to check if that element is present in the dictionary or not, right? So if I'm taking flavor. So now I have to check if this flav is present in the dictionary or not. I'll directly use what I used to use in case of lists. So I'll say if flav in ice cream menu. So this will check if that this flavor, right, whatever flavor the user has specified, that is present in the dictionary or not. So yeah, that is it. If that is present, then I'm going to print whatever is the cost associated with it. Or else I'll just say it's not present in the not available on menu. Okay, so yeah. So now if I provide a flavor that I know is present in the dictionary, so it gives me the proper answer. If I provide some different flavor which is not present, then it just says flavor not available on menu. So yeah, this is all about dictionaries. Yeah, and also you can have nested dictionaries as well. So let's see nested dictionaries. So this is like a basic dictionary. So what is the basic, what is the structure of a basic dictionary? You will have a key value pair. All the individual elements of your dictionary would be key value pair, right? And in case of nested dictionary, what you will have is you will have key value pair only, but the value, right? Now see, in this case, both the key and the value can be of any data type. Okay, you can have this key as a integer, as a boolean, as anything. Like you can have key and value as anything, any of the data types. So similarly, if my key value pair, in my key value pair, if I have the value as a dictionary, like this value is also a dictionary instead of being an integer. That is like here I have mentioned it as an integer, right? But if it is a dictionary instead of an integer, then that would be a case of a dictionary inside a dictionary, right? So that would be a case of nested dictionary. Okay, so in normal case, in a normal dictionary, you will have a key value pair wherein the key and the value can be of any data type. But if you have a value, if you have a dictionary in which the value is a dictionary, value is again a dictionary, then that would be a nested dictionary. So yeah, let's see an example of that. So now suppose if I have like a my family dictionary. Okay, if I have a my family dictionary, and so I have two children in my family, that is me and my sister. So I will say child one, and I'll say child one is Priya. Okay, and child two is it's my sister. So that was Sneha. Okay, so now I have two elements in my dictionary, right? So this is like a normal dictionary, a non-nested dictionary. So in this case, I can just say print from my family of child one, and this will print my name, right? Cool. Now if I want to add more characteristics than my name, like if I want to add some more thing apart from my name, I want to add my name and my date and my birth year, maybe. Yeah, so now I have two values, right, to be added in this value for child one. So what I'll do is I'll use one more dictionary. So basically I can do this as well. I can say child one dictionary. So I'll say child one dic is equal to, so I want two values in it. I want the name and I want the birth year. Right now I just have a name, but I want a name as well as birth year. So I'll say name to be Priya. Okay, and comma, I'll say birth year. Or I'll just say, yeah, year of birth. Okay, so this I'll say some 1998, for example. So this is my child one dictionary, and now similarly I have a child two dictionary for my sister. So I'll have name as Sneha and some year 2000, for example. So now here in this case I have two dictionaries, right? Now what I want to do is the same my family dictionary, right? My family, I'll just remove it from here. My family dictionary. Here in this case, I want that child one, this is the key, right? The key that I used initially also. In this case also I was using child one. So child one key should have a value of child one dic. Instead of just my name, I want this whole dictionary to be like a value for my main dictionary, right? So similarly, I can have child two. Child two would be child two dic. Underscore dic. Okay, so now if I want to so now if I say print of my family child one, it will print me the whole dictionary. It will print me whatever is the value associated with child one, which in this case is a whole dictionary, right? It's this whole dictionary. This one. It's this whole dictionary which is associated with child one key value. So yeah, when I print this, just a minute. Yeah, so I have a whole this dictionary as a value. Now if I want to print name out of that, what I'll do is I'll just specify, I'll just use one more square bracket and specify whatever is the key of the value that I want from this nested dictionary. So I have a nested dictionary. I have this child one dic as the main, like I have my family as the main dictionary. Then in one of the values for a key on in this dictionary, I have a dictionary. I have one more dictionary as a value. So when I want to access any element inside this nested dictionary, which means if I want to access my name, if I want to access the name of child one, so first I'll say child one, my family of child one, which will give me the dictionary associated with it. And from this next nested dictionary, I'll get the name. So in this case, I have to put one more square bracket and specify the key value in the nested dictionary. So yeah, this will give me Priya as the name. Clear this much? Clear everyone? Nested dictionaries?
Yes,
Okay. You
ma'am.
can also directly, like instead of you declaring these two dictionaries, you can actually directly use this inside my family also. So now again, this becomes a little confusing. So that's why I'm using spaces here. But spaces are not necessary. Like in this case, indentation is not necessary. All of them are just elements of the dictionary, right? So you don't have to use any indentations. I'm just using indentation so that it will make it easier for me to read it. So yeah, so I'll say child one. Child one is again a dictionary. So I'll say this is the value. A dictionary is again the value right here. See, I have put a colon, which means that the whatever is following the colon would be the value. So yeah, so now I'll say name.
Can you explain it again? I didn't understand about dictionary.
Like dictionary from the start, or you did not understand about the nested dictionary?
Nested dictionary.
Okay, okay, okay. Just a second. Okay, so now to begin with, I have a normal dictionary which has key and value pairs, right? So I have key and value pairs inside this my dictionary. I have a child one as key. Child one would be the key, which would be one child's name, first child's name, and then you have the key value, second key value pair, which is child two, which would be some second child's name. So this is clear to you, right? This is a normal dictionary. So what is a nested dictionary is that whenever instead of a normal string or a integer, right, as a value, if you have a dictionary as a value, so instead of this Priya here, instead of this string here, if you have another dictionary in place of this string, so that would be like a dictionary inside a dictionary, right? So that would be the case of nested dictionaries. Okay, that would be the example of nested dictionary. When you have a dictionary, another dictionary as a value inside one dictionary. So the same thing that I'll do, I'll just have two dictionaries. I'll have a dictionary with my name probably, and I'll have two attributes in this dictionary. I'll have two elements in this dictionary: name, which would be my name, and I'll have value, and I'll have year as the date of birth. Right? So this is one dictionary, and then similarly I'm creating one more dictionary for the second child. So in this case also I have the same at the same element, same keys basically. Then you have year. Okay. So now these two dictionaries, right? I've created two dictionaries. Now what I'll do is inside this my family dictionary, instead of using one single string as the value, I'll use the dictionary as the value. So here I have used this Priya name, right? Priya, maybe I'll just say Priya underscore DICT. Okay, so this Priya dict would be my one dictionary. That is over here in this my family dictionary. This Priya dict would be a value to one of the keys, and similarly Sneha dict would be the value for another key. Sneha, right? So yeah, so now I have a dictionary nested inside a dictionary, right? So that's why this is called a nested dictionary. And if now if I get the so what would be the value if I give the key as child one, what would be the value in this case?
Name Priya.
Name year.
Name and year, right? Now the value is the whole this whole dictionary. This whole dictionary is the value. So when I give child one as the key, whatever is present inside this dictionary will come as the value for me. So if I say print child my family child one, so this will just a minute, some error somewhere. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so this prints the whole dictionary. But now if I want just the name from this nested dictionary, I don't want the whole dictionary, I just want the name from this nested dictionary. So I will have to specify one more square bracket and specify the key inside the nested dictionary. So from inside the nested dictionary, I wanted the name key, right? I wanted the value for the name key. So that's why I have specified. So first, your first key would be whatever is the main dictionary's key. And the next key would be whatever is your nested dictionary's key value that you want. So that key you have to specify here. So if I print this, I'll just get Priya. Is this clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what I was saying. This is one way of doing it when you specify two separate dictionaries and use those dictionaries in the main dictionary. If you don't want to specify two separate dictionaries and directly write everything in that one dictionary, then that is also fine. Again, in this case, this indentation is not required. I'm just using indentation so that it will make it easier for us to read. Okay, so I have my first key, and then there should be a value associated with this key, and again after colon I have to specify the value. So in case of in place of value, I'll have one more dictionary. I'll say I want one more dictionary. Okay, so again in this dictionary, again indentation is just for my understanding and readability. It's not required in this case. You can write all of this in one line also, that is fine. Priya, and then you have year, which would be 1998, right? So after this gets done, like this is one key value pair, right? Now this is one key value pair. So after every key value pair you have a comma, so I'll have a comma after this, and I have my second key value pair, which is child 2. Again after colon I have to specify the value. In my case the value would again be a dictionary, so I'm again putting a square a curly braces, and inside this I'll put in whatever is required inside the nested dictionary. You'll have year 2000. So this would be my nested dictionary. Now in the same case, if I want to access any element, so if I want to access the name of child 1, okay, I want to access name of child 1. So first I have to give the key of the first dictionary, and then I have to give the key of the second dictionary, the nested dictionary. So I just say my family child 1, and then followed by whatever is the key required from the second dictionary, which is name in this case. So yeah, so see, it's the name that gets printed out. Clear?
Ma'am, why did he print two times of Priya?
That is because we already have the code right over here. If I remove this, this is the earlier code, right? So if I remove this, only this would be the code. Then in that case, only once it will get printed.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, dictionaries are clear for you all, right? So okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just give me 5 minutes. I'll be back. Just I am I'll have to find my charger. My battery is getting low. So just give me 2 minutes. I'll just be back. Till then, just think of any questions if you have, and then ask me once you come back. Just give me 2 minutes. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. Share my screen again. Okay, so yeah, dictionaries is done. So I think there was one more concept that we had not touched upon. That was global. This global keyword. So yeah, we'll quickly go through that. It's not much of a concept, like much of a different concept. So we can, I think we can quickly complete that. Yeah, before that, yeah, let's see how to loop through the pairs in dictionary. So while looping through a list, we directly use for some. So if I have a list, for example, with 3 or 4 elements, so 2, 3, 4, 5, and if I want to iterate all of the elements in the list, I can just say for I in list, right? And it will print me all the values that are present in the list. So yeah, it will print me all the values in the list. Now, in case I have a dictionary, and if I have some, maybe like a car brand or something, or maybe let's just use the earlier example one. Okay, so now I have a dictionary. Now, if I want to iterate a dictionary, so there are 3 different variations of iterating through a dictionary. So, if I just say for A in ice cream menu and print A, so this won't print me everything that I need to know about the dictionary. This will just print the keys present in the dictionary. Whatever keys are present in the dictionary, only those will get printed. So let's see. Yeah, so see here, only the keys got printed, right? Only the keys got printed, nothing else got printed. So if this is like this syntax would be used if you want to iterate through the keys, through keys of dictionary. If you want to iterate through the values of the dictionary, like not the keys, just the values of the dictionary, values of then you have to say for A in ice cream menu dot values. Okay, this will iterate this, if you specify dot values, the loop will iterate for all the values present in the dictionary. So in this case, all the values got printed out. Okay. Now, in case you want to print both the value and the keys for any dictionary, okay. So in case you want to print any values, any key and values present for any dictionary, so you have,
Ma'am,
yeah,
we can print besides of them
sorry.
like apple 40 rupees, mango 50
Yeah,
in
yeah, that's
wallet.
what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If you want to print both value and key, then you have to use screen menu dot iter items. I guess it is this iter items only. I think it's items. Just check. Let me just print and check if this is right. No, it's not. That's iter maybe. No, just a minute. Give me a minute. It's iter values, not iter items. Yeah. So you'll have to say iter values. No, what is wrong with this? Let me try one more thing. Got it. Got it. Okay, I think I'll get back to you on this one. There is some function called iter or iter items, something like that. I'll have to check it once. Mostly it's iter items only. I don't know why is it not working here. Okay, I think it should be it items only, directly items. But we checked this, right? It just gave the value. Okay. You don't require a parenthesis, it seems. So, yeah. From menu dot items. Now I have key, and now I'm gonna print value as well. Space str of value.
Ma'am, somebody muted you.
Yeah, so in this case, that parenthesis was not required. So you have key comma value in whatever dictionary dot items, and then you can just like print the key as well as the value. So this is how you iterate both the iterate both
keys and values. Okay, cool. So yeah, this was all about dictionary. Okay. So I think, yeah, the global variable, global keyword we can see next time. What I'll go through right now is the assignment that I have given you guys for this week. Yeah, this one. So yeah, let's just that there are quite a lot of questions. I mean, I got some good questions, so I thought I just like it would be a good practice for all the loops and structures, if else structures. So yeah, we'll just go through it one by one. And yeah, if you have any questions in any of these, then you can let me know and we can go through that. So yeah, the first question is write a Python program to find numbers which are divisible by 7 and multiple of 5 between 1500 and 2700, right? So in this, now I have to find if the current number, is it divisible by 7 and multiple by 5. Okay, so how do you check if it is divisible by 7? How do you check if a number is divisible by 7? If a
The
number
last
is
two numbers should be multiple, should be a multiple of 7.
yeah, that is when you manually do it. But like in case you have a number and you want to see if that is divisible by 7, then if you're working with programs, all you can just do is you can find the modulus of that number with 7, right? If the modulus is 0, which means the remainder is 0, which means 7 has completely divided that number, which means 7 is a divisible of that number, right? Right, got it? Is it clear? Like what we did, like we just checked if that number is divisible by 7, which means if that 7 can divide that number or not. So if 7 divides that number, then the remainder that you get out of that would be 0, right? So any number modulus of 7 should be 0 if that number is divisible by 7. So if I have a number 14, and if I want to check if 14 is divisible by 7, so what I'll do is I'll just say num mod 7, right? If num mod 7 is 0, which means 14 is divisible by 7. In case it's not, then 14 is not divisible by 7. So if I have something like 17, now 17, we know that 17 is not divisible by 7, right? 17, if you divide 17, if you divide 7 from 17, so you will have 3 as the remainder, right? So yeah, you have 3 as the remainder. Okay, so that is the first thing you need to check, like if a number is divisible by 7 and is a multiple of 5. So how do you check if it is a multiple of 5?
By checking the end of the number is 0 or 5.
Yeah. Again, that is how you manually do it, right? In this case, if you want to check if any number is a multiple of 5, then you'll again divide it by 5 and check, right? You will divide it by 5 and check if you are getting any remainder or not.
We will assign a variable to the 2700, and we will check the 5 modulus by number.
Yeah, right. So if I want to check if this 1500 number is divisible by 7, then in that case, I'll find a modulus with 7. If I want to check if it's, I think divisible and multiple here mean the same thing only. It's divisible by 7. Number is divisible by 7, which means it is, we are able to divide it by 7. And it is a multiple of 5. So if it's a multiple of 5, then it should be divided by 5. It should be completely divisible by 5 also. So here both these things mean the same thing. Multiple of 5 and divisible by 7 are the same thing, I guess. So what you have to do is for every number from 1500 to 2700, from 1500 to 2700, you have to check whether each of these number is divisible by both 7 and 5. You have to check both mod 7 and mod 5. Okay, so if I want to check if a number 1500, suppose if I want to check if 1500 is divisible by 7 and 5, then I have to check if num, okay, the number modulus 5 is equal to 0, right? If num 5 is equal to 0, num modulus 5 is equal to 0, then this number is divisible by 5, is a multiple of 5. Is a multiple of 5 means basically whenever you divide that number by 5, you should not get any remainder, because that number is a multiple of 5, right? So there is a 5 present in that number. It has been multiplied by 5. So in this case, this num mod 5 is equal to 0 should be true. And there is one more condition. I want num mod 7 also to be equal to 0. So I have two conditions here. Num mod 5 is 0 and num mod 7 is 0. And yeah, if this is true, then I'll say whatever, correct number or something. Okay, so yeah, probably it's not. It's divisible by 5. 1500 is divisible by 5, but I think 1500 is not divisible by 7. So this turned out to be false. So nothing got printed. Okay. So yeah, so this is just for one number 1500. You have to try this for every number from 1500 to 2700. You have to try this for every number from num1 to num2. Okay, so yeah, that you can use for loop for that. So that I put it as a homework to find out how do you use these two numbers in the for loop and put this as the condition. So yeah, that is the first one. So second one is a star pattern. So this is exactly like this is almost like what we saw. So now, since we have seen only ascending and descending, right? But this is both ascending and descending together. So what you can do is you can cut this into two halves, which means you can first print this part. Okay, so you all know how to print this part, right? This is what we have seen today, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is what you print first. Okay, so you write a loop, you write a nested for loop for writing this part. And after this is done, you then write a for loop to write this part. This writing this part is also what we have seen today in the class. So yeah, you write two for loops, two nested for loops, one for the above part, this part, ascending part, and one for the descending part. Okay, so yeah.
Ma'am, is this PPT will be shared with us?
Yeah, I guess this PPT will be shared with you all. Just remind Neelam, I guess, like she would be the one sharing the PPT. So, like, if you are in a WhatsApp group, just remind her once to share the PPT. Okay. So then we have third question. Third question is write a Python program that prints all the numbers from 0 to 6 except 3 and 6. Okay. So in this case, what should we do? What should we use? Now see, in this case, what loop should we use first of all? Should it be a for loop or a while loop? Should it be a for loop or a while loop? Anyone? We know we have to print numbers from 0 to 6. So we know we have a specified number that our loop should run till 6 only. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll use for loop in this case, right? So we'll use for loop, and whenever our variable is 3 or 6, whenever the value of I, okay, if you're using I as a variable to run the loop, so whenever you encounter I is equal to 3 or I is equal to 6, then in that case you will continue the loop, right? You don't want to print it, you just want to continue the loop. So you should skip 3 and 6. So we saw, right, if you want to skip some iteration, some part of the code and some iteration, we'll use a continue statement. So that using that continue statement, you have to skip at the point where the loop where the variable of the loop becomes 3 or 6. Okay, so next question, accept number from user and calculate the all numbers between 1 and a given number. Okay, so in this case, first you have to accept a number from the user, right? First you have to accept a number from the user. So if suppose when the user says 5, the user gives 5 as an integer. So what you are going to do is you are going to calculate the sum of 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, if the user gives 10 as the integer, then you have to calculate the sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So starting from 1, you have to calculate the sum of all the numbers in ascending, like that are present in ascending order, till the number that the user has given you. Okay, so one question, what loop will be used here, while loop or for loop?
Ma'am, which?
Question number 4, just now we discussed, right? Accept number from user and calculate the sum of all numbers between 1 and a given number. So you accept a number from the user, and then you have to calculate the sum of all numbers that lie between 1 and that given number. So if user is giving 5 as the
While loop should be
file loop should not.
No, ma'am, for loop.
Yeah, why while loop should not be used? Because see, when you are taking a number from the user, okay, so whatever that number is, like if even if that number is 5 or 10, that is a definite number, right? Like you are taking the number from the user. So once the user gives that number, you know the number, you know that this number, that the loop has to be specified for this number of times. So if you're taking a number, you'll be taking that number in a variable, right? So whatever variable you were using in order to get the user's input, so that variable will hold how many times you want this loop to run. So it's a definitive thing, right? It's not like you start running the loop and still you don't know how many times the loop has to be run. The user has given you an input, and you know this is the specified number of times that the loop has to be run. So in this case, you will use a for loop. If the user says 5, if the user gives you an input of 5, you have to run the loop to find the sum of numbers from 1 to 5. Okay, if the user gives 10 as the input, then you have to run the loop to find the sum of numbers from 1 to 10. So
In while you have to keep I update.
yeah, so that's why you can use for loop instead of a while loop. Okay. Next question. Given a list, iterate it and display numbers which are divisible by 5. And if you find number greater than 150, stop the loop iteration. So okay, let's just go slowly. Given a list, you have a list. You have to display numbers which are divisible by 5. Okay, so now in this case, since you have a specified list, the list has a definite value, the list has definite number of elements. So you will use a for loop. We saw how we iterate loops, for loop, how we iterate lists using for loop, right? So same thing, we'll iterate this list using the for loop, and at every element we'll check if that number is divisible by 5. Again, divisible by 5 means you have to take a modulus with 5. Okay, if the modulus is equal to 0, which means that number is divisible by 5. So if that is the case, if that condition is true, okay, if that number is divisible by 5, then you will print that number. Okay, if in case the number is divisible by 5, so if I have a list, if I have a list with some values, okay, now I'll say for I in list, I am going to check if I mod 5 is 0, which means if I is divisible by 5. If I is divisible by 5, then you print I. If that number is divisible by 5, that is if the modulus with 5 is 0, then you print I. And then the second part, and if you find number greater than 150, then stop the iteration. Okay, so now if you, then you will have to have one more if loop, one more if structure. So if the number I is greater than 150, then you have to stop the loop, right? That's what it says. So how do you stop the loop? How do you stop the loop?
Uh, we will print stop.
Break.
Break. Yeah, right. You have to break the loop. So if it's 150, if that number is greater than 150, you have to break the loop. So then the list is also provided here. You can use the same list. Next is write a Python code to take integer inputs from the user until the user provides a negative integer. So now in this case, which loop will you use? While or for? Now in this case, you have to keep on taking the input from the user, and you have to only stop when the user gives a negative input.
For loop, I think.
in this case, you don't have a specified number of times the loop has to run, right? While loop, yeah. Because in this case,
While loop.
you are taking a number from the user, but you have to keep on running the loop until the user gets a negative number. So you have a condition that whenever the user provides a negative integer, that is when you stop the loop, right? So you don't have a specific number of times that you want to run the loop. You have a condition. You have a condition that whenever the user gives a negative input, you stop the loop. Okay, so this is cool. Then these two are dictionary based questions. So this is what we have already done in the class. This is really simple. Write a Python script to check whether a given key exists in a dictionary. So that we saw, right? You just have to use in if the key in a dictionary name. And next you have write a Python program to iterate over dictionaries using for loops. So this is the last thing that we saw. You can iterate, you can try that. You can use for loops to iterate through the dictionary. So yeah, this is your assignment, and there's quite a lot, so you can do it like even if you don't complete it by the next session, that's fine. You can just do it at your own pace. So yeah, any questions?
When the last class of next week.
Yeah, that is also fine. You can do it like as per whatever is your convenience. So yeah, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No.
Okay, great. Yeah, I hope you guys understood what we went through today, all the concepts that we have covered today. Okay. Shaina, I guess we can close the call for today.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, Tariq.
Hi. If class has been done, then
Yeah,
we will
yeah, yeah.
close.
It's done for today. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Bye, Saina. Bye. Nice.
Bye, guys. Bye, bye, Tariq. Bye, Shaina.